Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. Time now for the Kickstarter, and we're looking at political mobilization and its impact in light of what is happening in the country ahead of the 2026 presidential, parliamentary, as well as local elections, bounded up as the general election. And we want to understand how youth pave the path to accountability in politics, taking count of how many and how they act on the political front line. I'll be introducing my guests very shortly, but our preamble today, we challenge the simple dichotomy of youth as either a dangerous or disengaged political constituency that needs to look beyond rallies and the rhetoric to analyze whether the conditions are right to allow many of the youth to emerge as a politically salient category. Wow. Can the youth actually emerge as very pivotal in shaping the political landscape of the country? That is debatable, and it's also down to where you are standing. Are you on the opposition? Are you within the government or the National Resistance Movement, that is the governing party? Or are you simply a youth who is an activist and standing maybe at the fence? It matters exactly where you are. Shamim Nambassa is a youth politician and member of the National Unity Platform. Many thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad that you made it, because the National Unity Platform right now is in a spot of bother.
That's true.
For the kind of approach that it takes towards mobilization of its constituency or electorate or supporters. There are elements across the country that are concerned at the sheer pseudo-militant approach to mobilization, one that has the spokesperson of the Uganda People's Defense Forces and the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs saying that if the National Unity Platform had not taken on a militant posture, the kind of confrontation we see wouldn't be happening. But when you look at NUP and how it presents itself, the youth are clad in berets. Some of them have uniforms, overalls that look like they have what is clear rankings within the NUP establishment. Talk to us about that and what that representation looks like to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning to all the viewers and everyone that is tuned in. I'm Dr. Shamim Nambassa, a member of the National Unity Platform, a former guild president at Makerere University, and the first NUP flag bearer, for that matter.
At Makerere?
No, generally, amongst all
what do you mean
universities. The first NUP flag bearer.
Flag bearer.
Yes.
To contest for position.
For guild presidency.
For guild presidents.
And,
okay.
win. And I'll go straight to the point that you raised, that it is scary for the side of government, but then I would want for us to analyze and see what it is that the National Unity Platform was doing. As a political party and as an organization, for that matter, therefore, we are allowed by law, and it is our right to associate and be part of political parties. And I think for the time that Mr. Museveni or the state allowed for us to have multi-party kind of systems, we are then allowed to do things that describe us as a political party. And so that then includes identity, that when I put on this beret that is on my head, it then shows that I'm actually clear that I identify with the National Unity Platform. And even when they go ahead to put on uniforms and overalls, I think it is not news. It is not new that people have since done something like that. And for someone to have a parade, I remember even when we were still in school, we used to have parades, and we have actually still done such kinds of trainings. We used to have, I remember my mother telling me they used to go from chaka. And it is so if the government can then allow to train people to have such basic skills, I don't see why they are uncomfortable with the National Unity Platform associating or grouping ourselves the way we do and having that level of organization. So for me, I think at the end of the day, Mr. Museveni is afraid because the time that they went to the bush, they were our age. They were youth, they were young people, and the situations then that forced them to go to the bush, we can comfortably say that they are still the same situations we are having today in Uganda. So it is incumbent, or it is expected of him to be afraid that another raising of the same sort that he had could actually come up in such a way. So it is not that they are being careful, it's not that they are being concerned about, you know, militia and all those kinds of things. It is that they are afraid that what they went through or what they did could actually happen at any other time or anytime soon.
Okay. A creative militancy is often used by many political organizations to drive an agenda. Okay. But usually there is a thin line between what is creative about that particular militancy and what is actually leaning towards extremism. And that is the fear. If parades like the ones the National Unity Platform Principle conducted are strengthened, augmented, or followed by rhetoric that speaks to a new way of doing things as a political party in light of the upcoming election or general election, wouldn't you think that any security formation out there must pay attention, because the rhetoric follows the action?
Well, I would think that first and foremost, they need to know what it was that we are doing, because I did not see any sort of arms. I did not see anyone carrying anything that can be used to threaten the security of this country, because we're just young people who are organized. So if
somebody was young and organized.
Yeah, exactly. So
and,
it is.
He threatened.
So it shouldn't be our fear. It should then go back to them, because what are they afraid of? Is it that if whatever we are doing is within the law, then we are allowed to do so? It only becomes something of their concern if we get out of the law. But as of now, as of what we are doing today, it is within the law. And I would understand his fears, because if that is what pushed them to the bush and he's still now doing the same, then maybe he should be afraid. I really can't arrest his fears, really.
Interesting there. Active participation in politics for young persons across the country has been a bit of fits and starts. So much so that we cannot actually define that this is how the youth either position themselves, or this is how they go about the political landscape and finding their position in there. So much so that they are susceptible to being used by the established older, I should say elderly politicians for their own agenda. When we look at the National Unity Platform and its thrust towards the youth, it's very more like many are inspired by the story that is the principal, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu.
It is.
If we disengaged Ssentamu Robert Kyagulanyi, forgive me for the choice of how I place the names, what would remain as the core ideology that any one youth within the National Unity Platform is driving at?
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, it is true that for a very long time, youth have been used during, political activities. We have seen on very many occasions that, first and foremost, youth are very good mobilizers. They are very energetic, very enthusiastic, that you would expect for us to be there at any day, at any time. And I think we're very excited to be part of these things. And so at the end of the day, we end up being used, and that is what then happens in most cases. And for example, even as of today, and I would say it comes to a point where people just provide money to these young people to come and, you know, be part of whatever they are organizing, even when the youth do not believe in such things.
Yeah.
And first, I would say it's because of the situations that we live in. We have so many young people that are unemployed. We have so many young people that are not sure of what it is that they want to be or where it is that they want to see this country go. So in such situations, and I will say it has been there for a very long time, but then coming back to the idea of the National Unity Platform and where we see, if for example, we disengaged His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, where would we be? NUP, or the people power, is an ideology, and we know that for many times an idea is not something, it's not embedded in a particular person. An idea is something that people buy into. For example, by the time I joined the university, we had UID, we had DP, but then it was now a time where we felt as young people we have been kept behind and been used. So and you can agree with me that with the National Unity Platform, we have seen so many young people come up, so many that did not believe in themselves, step up, you know, to take up different spaces, to be in different platforms, to express themselves. We must appreciate, for example, the whole idea around social media, that before we did not see the power that social media came with, but we see it today, that anyone will get their phone and say whatever it is that they wish to say and put out, and it is going to move. So even when we disengaged, or even when His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is disengaged, the issues that force we young people to come up and speak about different things, the issues that force us to, you know, be at the front line, to advocate, to you know, be there, are still going to be there. And if the situations remain as they are, I'm sure even when you disengaged him, the idea is going to continue. The idea of people power will still stay, because as young people right now, being 79% of the population, with the issues that affect us, we can't continue to keep quiet. We must appreciate that, yes, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi, he did, I think, open our eyes. He gave us a perspective that many of us did not have. That actually, as young people, we do have a say. That as young people, we can come out and, you know, make change. We can come out and force change. I still refer to the March to Parliament, because that is something that I was completely engaged in, and I saw so many young people engaged in, and I know that to some extent it did bring about some level of questioning what it is that we are experiencing as of today. At least I know that there could have been some internal discussions about things to do with corruption at Parliament. So the whole idea around people power and the National Unity Platform does not entirely rotate around him. And I must say that even the young people that we see come out here, it's not because that, you know, they just want to be seen. It's not because they have been called out. It's because they feel it is time for us to be part of whatever it is that is happening in our country. Okay,
I'm glad you spoke of the fact that by the time you went to university, the political movements at the time were mainly led by the UID,
yes,
and other political youth political vehicles, and the emergence of NUP perhaps offered a new
vehicle and a new
and the enthusiasm.
Image,
But when you look at the competencies and the requirements for the political space, the youth are often told, you are the leaders of tomorrow.
Which tomorrow is today now.
And there is a tendency for people to wait to be given the mantle in order to become that which they have been promised. So much so that we see this happening in Uganda, where your engagement in politics appears to be overly tagged on principles, people, and I'm glad you say the ideology is what inspires you. Maybe the test of time will also offer us much needed clarity on that particular issue. But within the National Unity Platform, what is the basic structure of growing a leader? Nambassa, you have the advantages that you have. You've been a guild president. You present as a different personality from a youth who has been inspired by Bobi Wine. what are the opportunities for that youth away from the energy, the enthusiasm that comes with political rally?
Okay. Well, I don't know why you want to put me in a different category, because
no.
either way, I'm still a mentee and a member of the National Unity Platform. Even for me to become
I'm only amplifying
president.
the fact that the advantages that you come with are different from the average youth who might not have the ability to decipher between ideology and personality.
And personality, yes. So as I was still saying, I'm a mentee of the National Unity Platform. I'm not yet there. Okay. I'm still being trained, and yes. Right. So we do have different engagements on different levels. We've had retreats. We have a leadership school, for example. So first and foremost, we do have an NUP Youth League that is led by Honorable Zake. We have youth leaders, the deputies at different regional levels, and within these structures, we continue to build a structure that goes down.
Shouldn't be a youth in NUP.
He's not a youth. He's a leader of the youth league,
okay.
and I mean, I would say in a picture of, he's a patron, for example.
Yes, right, maybe.
So, and I mean, even the Minister for Youth is not necessarily a youth. So, if our Minister for Youth Affairs is 50 years plus, so really, I think Zake would be a good bargain. So, we do have a youth structure where we do go through different trainings, and different people are given an opportunity to lead at any level. We have youth structures that go down to the village level, to the zone level. So it may not be the case that you may not see them come here, for example, to TV stations, to wherever they are, but in their different zones and in their different villages, they are able to execute different roles and capabilities. And then still, I think we cannot ignore the fact that we have our NUP Leadership School, where we do have training for young leaders, that people are trained before we actually take up the mantle, because I've seen for us as young people pushing so much, it is time for us to lead, it is time for us to have these positions, but then you can't be in a leadership position when you don't actually know what it is that you're going to do. And I mean, we must accept and agree that the level of leadership, or the quality of leadership, has since declined in Uganda. Generally, on a general perspective, we have leaders that actually do not know what it is that they're doing. So we must appreciate the National Unity Platform for coming up with something like that. While we are training youth and, telling youth that it is our time to take up the mantle, it is our time to be in these positions, are they ready to actually be leaders? Because it's not enough to just be a youth, but you must be trained to be able to take up such positions. So I think for the National Unity Platform, we must agree that we are on a good trajectory.
Okay, interesting that when you speak about good trajectories, there is one that should be able to offer the kind of foundations for that. The National Youth Council, we had expected to speak to the chairperson of the National Youth Council, but unfortunately we are not able to. But the question to him would have been how the National Youth Council and all the other establishments that fall within the process of ensuring that youth are organized in areas that prepare them for the critical role that they are going to play. These have suffered what I can call a malaise. They are no longer as active as they used to be, including students' councils in schools, and of course the political movements within the institutions of higher learning like Makerere University, which is ideally a microcosm of the political landscape. What is the plan like to ensure that it's not about NUP only as the youth, but to have all these young persons begin to build from an earlier foundation than simply seeking mobilization at party level? I think I want to agree with you that there has been suffocation of the different structures that would have expected to be the nursery beds for we young leaders. And I can, for example, give you an example of Makerere University. We are told of stories that before they used to have debates. We did have the Makerere Debate Union. We used to have members of parliament come to
Makerere on a monthly basis and debate about issues.
Yeah.
But then there has been deliberate effort, and I'm not afraid to say that the deliberate effort comes from the state to suffocate such spaces. I can ably say that as of recently, when we had issues with the Makerere Students Guild, that the debate union organized a debate, called for a debate to discuss about those issues. There was a new statute. They were changing from physical campaigns to online campaigns. And for me, that alone then questions what it is that we are being prepared for, because at Makerere we used to have rallies. We used to go out there. I remember I used to, you know, be on top of cars. I used to be on people's shoulders and shout. And that is what happens outside the Makerere environment. But then it was at least, you know, it was more organized. It was, you know, a bit liberal to allow for us to be groomed. But that has been suffocated. When we come to the National Youth Council, for example, you come to, you know, our youth leaders, the MPs, the way they are organized, the way they have, even right from the elections, that it is, you know, it is kept inside, it is behind the curtains. People are not even sure of what is happening. But then still, we do not see what the National Youth Council is doing to train such young people. The only time we see them come out to speak is when it involves money, that, you know, such monies have gone missing, such monies have not come. The budget has been reduced. So on a general basis, I can say that there is a deliberate effort by the state to bastardize the politics of this country, and for us to be starved of good leaders. That even when we would have had Makerere University, for example, grooming good leaders, it is being, you know, suffocated. They suspended political parties, they suspended physical campaigns. So you can see that these are deliberate efforts to you know, to starve us of having such good leaders or such training that would have groomed young people from the university level, from schools, before they actually do come up to take up political positions outside.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Shamim Nambassa, for that submission. I wouldn't want to be in the kind of position that the chairperson of the National Youth Council, Jacob Eyeru, finds himself in right now, because he's just joined us. But as he did, Shamim Nambassa was releasing artillery after artillery. Jacob Eyeru, welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Nambassa has basically not, I don't know even how to describe it, but there you are. You heard her say that there is a deliberate bastardization process going on, the tendency to stifle the ability of the youth at the foundational levels to become what they ought to become. The debates, the political activism and mobilization campaigns that characterized Makerere University in the 1990s and up to the 2000s are something of a distant, painful memory for some. Why is it so right now? And as the National Youth Council, shouldn't your thrust be beyond what Shamim Nambassa says is the connotation of coin?
Thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure to share the platform with Nambassa here, a very brilliant young leader. I think it is not true that there is bastardization. It's just the nature of youth politics. It comes with aura, it comes with what young people call vibe. And in the last time that happened in Makerere, I was actually there to support our NRM party candidate, my brother Hussein Ibra. We lost that election, but a young man lost his life. And I think it was on that basis that the university decided to review the way or the nature of political participation. In our time at Makerere, between 2012 and 2016, it was way worse. The whole university would get closed, not just the guild, because of political interplay. The action taken by the university administration, while justifiable, was not supported. And in fact, the National Youth Council even issued a public statement denying that being a progressive action. You cannot suggest that because 2, 3 people have died in an election cycle. Therefore, young people cannot exercise political participation rights. And I think I agree with her on that. But the National Youth Council has already communicated this to Makerere. Maybe we can do it again. But that we have.
Or you can do more.
I mean, we could do more, but university administrations ultimately still make the decision. Makerere is not the only university where that's happening. At universities like UCU, there has never been political affiliation. For Makerere, though, we think it's sentimentally wrong to have that kind of arrangement, and we will engage more, and we'll take it up and engage more. Then the other argument that youth structures are not active because first there's this allegation that the elections are hidden. That's not true. In every election cycle, the EC roadmap has, from the compilation of the National Voters Register, a separate compilation of the Youth Voter Register. It's right there. And then the village structure date is also on the EC roadmap. Like for this year, it's on the 2nd of June. It's very clear on the national EC roadmap. But we went a step further as a National Youth Council and said, okay, we understand that there is low publicity around this issue. And we collaborated with all youth political party wings of all political parties. Ironically, whenever we try to reach the National Unity Platform, we don't get a lot of responses. Once in a while, we do get responses, and that was the case in this once in a while. We've extracted, as the National Youth Council, working with youth political party structures under the Multi-Party Youth Forum, the specific dates for youth elections, right from the compilation all the way to the elections. And we've extracted them for all youth structures, for the National Youth Council, for the youth representatives to local government, for the youth members of parliament elections, and we've called it a youth electoral roadmap, and we launched it with the media present. So we have really tried to make sure that this idea that the National Youth Council is hidden away from the public and it does not suffice, it doesn't contribute.
I want to defend myself before we go very far.
You will defend yourself, no doubt about that. My constraints are entirely on the parameters of time. Let's go for a break. When we return, I will allow the chairman to submit a little bit more on how the structures, despite the constraints that he says towards publicity or the lack of it, something must be happening to the youth movement that should be rectified. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. 5 minutes after 8 o'clock, and as we inch closer to the final bend of our Kickstarter, allow the Chairperson of the National Youth Council, Jacob Eyeru, to finalize his submission, especially on allegations that the youth structures away from the top and the political party mobilization endeavors remains something that is underwhelming in terms of performance. When I was a student in high school, our student council at Bukit College Kachonga was massive. There was a lot of anticipation to days where, for example, Tororo College, Nabomali High School, Manjasi High School, and other colleges from within the region would come together to debate the great and eternal issues of the time. Right now, I don't know whether, since I've grown older, I'm not within the circles to understand when these schools are coming together to debate these very complex and sometimes emotive issues that the country finds itself in. What is happening on the ground?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's been less debate today. There is way more debate going on among schools, among universities, partly because of the work that the Makerere Debating Union that she talked about has done, and many other organizations, like the Debate Society of Uganda. But for me, the bigger question, which is tied to the first concern, whether the youth structures are vibrantly felt, ties more about the quality of the people that join those structures, much more than whether they exist. Because since 1993, the National Youth Council has been led by only vibrant people. From the very first chairperson, Sentongo, who is now with OPM, to individuals like Honorable Dan Kidega, individuals that have come through the ranks and now are in formidable places, two current ministers, the youngest ones, Honorable Abe and Nyamutora, all products of the National Youth Council structure. So there is some input that the National Youth Council is doing. The question is, if you have a structure of 600,000 elected young people, should we be asking, why are we not filling you? Because even if there were 5,000 and there was...
We should be able to fill them.
We should be able to fill them. And that is a simple answer. It's a question of resources. Do the National Youth Council structures at that district have the necessary resources? Before we came into office, the National Youth Council structure at the district did not even run a resource holding account. There was no district structure that could boast of controlling any finances. It is us who tried to change that, and we changed it, and then we committed our own funds to say, as opposed to having a centralized management system, let's decentralize. When
you say own funds, what do you mean? Personal funds?
No. The National Youth Council has been running a budget from the central government. And for all these 30 years of existence, that money was being run at the center in our headquarters, the secretariat, and was not being disbursed. And so we came in and said, first of all, this should stop. You cannot say that you have 146 district centers, but none of them can even hold a meeting. It doesn't make sense. So we said, let's disburse the money and decentralize it. And that began to show some activity in some districts. But away from that, the National Youth Council structures cannot be relevant if there are no running government youth programs in the districts. And true to that, we ensured that there must be a role for the village youth chairperson, for the parish youth chairperson, and we fixed that in the parish development model. There should be a role for the sub-county youth chairperson and their team, and that is in the youth livelihood program, so that we can have their activity. If you're just existent, but you have no mandate on any government program, it's hard to see your relevance outside political activism. The question of why do we see them during election time, that's because they are constituted politically. Why are we hearing much more sentiment from Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye, from Bobby Wine, Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, and every other person now? Is because we are going to when that rubber needs to meet the road. This is the timing. So it is just natural that even the National Youth Council will gravitate towards political sentiment and will gravitate along our political affiliative lines. As Jacob Eyeru, a member of the NRM, I'm going to be speaking more about why the NRM needs to continue, why young people need to join. I expect Shamim Nambassa to say the same for the National Unity Platform. I expect a person like Kiria to speak for DP, and so on and so forth. It's just natural gravitation. There has been this idea that all the National Youth Council structures are an extension of the NRM, and as you can now hear, there is this. But
because that is what it has been put out to be. That and when I said that the elections are hidden, it's the fact that the NRM sits down and controls whatever it is that happens with the youth elections. And I didn't mean to say that they are not out there. Yes, they are going to release the roadmap and put it out there. But then the youth actually do not even know about these very elections. The youth do not know about these youth structures. And it's unfortunate that even when Honorable Jacob sits here, there are people that they are youth that are just seeing him for the first time. There are people that didn't know about him, and they're still out there because we don't see it. That the NRM, and I've had it for a very long time, and it actually does happen, that the youth league from the NRM is transmitted to the NYC, and because they control the entire process, I know that even in the last electoral process, for example, the National Female Youth MP elections, they had been communicated to be in a different district one night, and then the night before the polling day, they told them they're now in another district. Was it moving?
Dr. Nambassa has asked my final round of questions.
Thank
Submit you. And we'll get out of here.
I'm lucky that I allowed her, because I would not have known the lies.
No, they're not lies.
Respond, please.
But let's do this. First and foremost, the youth structure elections at the village are lining up.
Yes, that is true.
They are not ballot, they are lining up. And in any village, to be lined up, you must appear, you must appear in the village youth register. Yes. That register of a village, really, if you are not chosen in a line of youth in your village, Can you blame a political party? Is it a work of a political party? No,
It
it's just
actually is, because you dictate where
let me just say that. Like I've said, this roadmap, and we've gone the extra length because of these excuses by the opposition, that now we don't want your excuses. We have even extracted the youth roadmap. It's here. Let's see how you perform, because you keep claiming the NRM doesn't have young people. So it is not true that the National Youth Council elections are hidden. It is also not true that they are manipulated, because they are at the village level and they are in the public layer. They are not by secret ballot. That election that was abandoned in Kamwocha, where a youth from NRM won the lining up in the last round, was because the NRM youth were more serious in that village. It had nothing to do with whether NRM protected them. And their villages we didn't win, like in Mitiana, multiple villages in Ukunjiri, but all in all NRM won over 90% of that election. The second issue, which for me is a bit concerning, is why do young people want to claim the structure is not relevant, the structure is not visible, yet the structure is actually the young people. If the young people, my sister Shamim here, and many others, have been the most available National Youth Council chairperson. If you want me on a Twitter space, I'll be there. If you want me on a WhatsApp call, I'll be there. Tomorrow, I am on a podcast. In every manner, we have made sure that there is no excuse for not knowing. We have even, for the first time, the National Youth Council has run social media platforms that are very active on every initiative we take. We communicate, and we do it on a non-partisan nature. So
how aggressive really is that? How aggressive is that endeavor to the youth in Butaleja, down my village in Kachonga, who is not on X, is not on Facebook, cannot afford a WhatsApp call? Thank
you. In 2023, we decided that, and we noticed that it's not possible for us to reach every young person on social media. That's less than 10% of the young people population, in Uganda. What we shifted to was radio programming, and we agreed with the Ministry of ICT. Give us free government airtime, let young people have at least 1 hour, the youth leadership in the district per week that is on government airtime. That time is available. All youth chairpersons, all youth leaders need to simply reach their RDC and say, what is the time allocated to us? It was declared on International Youth Day.
Do you see an RDC allowing Dr. Shamim Nambassa to utilize that 1 hour to broadcast?
Shamim Nambassa, Dr. Shamim Nambassa is not a chairperson of a youth council. Let me just put it out clearly.
Okay,
however, the chairperson of the youth council of Mitiana, my brother Kadu, who is in National Unity Platform, is allowed to do so, because it's government airtime. It's not for Shamim to come and say
but you see, what I'm trying to say is that the youth structures are not irrelevant. They are very relevant, and we actually need them. But we are questioning what the leadership is actually doing. Because for me, it is not enough for you to say that you got us free airtime on radio. But I would appreciate it if you said that as the National Youth Council chairpersons, we have addressed issues to do with unemployment. We have addressed issues to do with,
and we have, but we don't have the time now.
Time is out. On Morning at NTV, I hope we can have another opportunity to amplify these issues and ensure that we understand better the workings of the youth movement, especially as led by the National Youth Council. Many thanks, Dr. Shamim Nambassa, for joining us this morning, and many thanks to you too, Jacob Eyeru, Chairperson of the National Youth Council, for making time. That's it for our Kickstarter, but do stay with us.